And now, Team Dune Prophecy, say hello to visual effects producer, Terron Pratt. And finally, we have production designer, Tom Meyer. Hello, hello. Yet another congratulations to all of you. First up on my list here is Dune Prophecy. So we're going to start with some production design. So we're going to cue up some visuals from your incredible work, Tom. And this show is just something else. There's such an extensive amount of work that you're required to do across so many worlds, but in an effort to highlight as much as we can in one right now, I want to focus this question on Wallach 9. Going into working on the entirety of that space, which set did you think would be the toughest for you to pull off? And ultimately, was it, or did a different one catch you by surprise?
Well, they all kind of fell into place naturally, because I think by the time we came up with the idea, we kind of had a really good plan to put forward. One of the things that the studio and then the creatives and the showrunners put together for the idea for executing the show as a whole was to create a world that felt real and tactile. We're kind of in the Dune world, and if you are familiar with the Dune world or have read any of the books, it's this post-technology world. So instead of having a science fiction show that is glossy and shiny, and has all these computer screens everywhere. It's this old school kind of tactile, real world, kind of grounded vibe. And we wanted to create something that felt kind of as real as possible. So when the actors came on, the characters came on, they could see the environment in front of them. So we were trying to build these things as big as possible. And that's probably the biggest challenge for all of the spaces. The library was huge, 10 meters tall, all the books, everything was massive. We were filling up the stages from basically wall to wall to create an environment so that when the actors came on, they didn't have to spend that extra energy kind of imagining what would be there. Everything was there in front of them, down to all the furniture that was built, all the props were real, everything felt real, it was real, and then that allowed the actors to kind of get lost in their characters and get lost in the story. And I think that helps translate for the audience when they're watching it, because you're trying to create a believable space. And part of that is if you believe in it, the actors believe in it, then ultimately the audience is going to believe in it too.
So you emphasize the big in that answer. I want to take a moment to focus on the small because I just absolutely love the tiny details that might not be front and center in a frame, but are key to filling out the world for the actors on set and also for the audience. So can you maybe name a couple of teeny tiny details that you're especially proud of? And even if someone's not looking right at that, they could feel it making this world real.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other directive was that we wanted to give this space in this world of Dune a sense of history, a sense of time. To do that, everything had to felt like stone that it's been touched 1,000 times, gets that oil rubbed patina on it. And right down to also the props and the set deck. We had behind the Mother Superior's desk, who played by Emily Watson, we had these kind of glass orbs blown by a Hungarian glass artist that held the Rossack water, which was a sacred water. So there's all these kind of little, Easter eggs of realism, of story-driven pieces throughout the sets. And I think those kinds of details, again, repeated over and over, kind of help create a believable world.
Those little details are things that I would have stolen if I were on your set too. I love it.
A lot of people took some.
I mean, honestly, I don't blame them. To loop both of you in on this particular question, because I know the collaboration between your departments is of the utmost importance. Can each of you name something particular where the opportunity to work on it together and grow the idea together was especially creatively fulfilling?
Sure. I mean, I think creating the campus on Wallach 9 for the Sisterhood, it's something that we modeled. We went to a real rock quarry that we kind of did, again, got out the big bulldozer and start to move things around. And we can take it up to a certain point, and that makes it really big. But if you want it to really get epic, we really need to be partnered with visual effects to kind of expand upward and outward for those wider shots to really, again, become immersive. Because I think what we're trying to do as a team is we're not just building a world, we're trying to frame that world. And to frame it, sometimes that frame is galactic, or it's planetary, or it's the size of a football pitch. But ultimately, we're trying to frame it for, again, I go back to the actors, to the stories, to the characters. We're trying to frame it for these characters to tell a good story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tom's designs from the get-go on Wallach 9 were stunning. And so it was awesome for us to have the opportunity to expand upon this quarry that we shot in and really build out some of that scope. Because we have scope from the size of the walls and the sets that were created for our landing pad. But beyond that, we were able to expand and place the sisterhood, I don't know, 50 meters up on the cliff walls and then add into these ponds of water and kind of this desolate landscape.
So I feel like most people can know where I'm going next based on what's playing on the screen behind you guys. Terron, I obviously have to focus on some sandworms. Like,
Okay.
you don't hear Dune without thinking of sandworms and vice versa. So
Absolutely.
can you maybe tell us a little bit about, I guess, starting with what was established before Dune Prophecy in terms of the Shai Hulud design, but then also evolving it in a way that speaks to how they're worked into this narrative in a way like never before, really.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting because every opportunity that we have with Shai Hulud is either in a dream sequence or in a projection. So there's an element of fantasy to it, and we're seeing these things through the eyes of somebody else and their memory. So while we had Shai Hulud established recently in other productions, we were able to take that and kind of build upon it. And obviously, we have to work with something that still feels familiar, even though we're 10,000 years before that. But one of my favorite things about Shai Hulud and how it plays in the show is that even though we know that it's not real and it's not part of our world, there's realities that we are able to bring to that by we all understand how sand would move if something giant like that would come through, and so one of our elements of how does sand move, all of the secondary motion of the sand and dust simulations, and really establishing the weight of that creature.
There's something else. Another element that I have to ask you about that I was also incredibly impressed by is how you visualize Anna Roll here. So I was reading that you and your team knew that was going to be a big challenge going into this, and it certainly was. And I feel like some other folks are going to hear a question like this later on. But I just love hearing about how ideas like that wind up evolving. So when you first started working on how it was going to look, what would you say is the biggest difference between that initial design and what we see in the finished product?
It's funny. That's one of the things that probably evolved the most over the course of the season, because initially it needed to kind of have a grounded nature, and this is it's a breeding index, and so the concept initially was that it's a server type feeling in an environment that is expansive. But we departed from that kind of early on during production, and then started working on concept work to establish a like family tree like feel without being full on trees. So we have these elaborate graphics that play inside a very expansive space, but at the same time, it was important that they didn't just feel like graphics. They weren't digital elements just populated inside the environment. They really needed to feel like part of the environment and have some volume. And so it took a lot of work to build out each one of those things and utilize their motion to kind of sell that they are a part of this environment.